So, Bob, your mom died.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the listeners know the details that you've talked about on the podcast about
Oh,
your mom and your current relationship and your past relationship, but I don't know how much you want to talk about here. But I thought that when you showed up today, since this is the first time we've seen each other in person since your mom died,
yeah.
I asked you if you wanted to talk about it off mic because that would be something normally that we would do. But I thought, given how people look up to you and how much healing happens when people hear you talk about your inner life, I thought maybe, and I asked you if you wanted
Yeah.
to talk about it on mic. So,
Yeah.
how are things going?
Good. She had Alzheimer's, and the last year, in particular, the last several months, were just a major decline. And so she's had Alzheimer's for probably 5, 6 years, and was in memory care. And she's in New Jersey near my brother. She moved out of the house that she had forever, and we grew up in. A little less than 2 years ago into the memory care place, and then she just declined and lost consciousness and slipped away about 3 weeks ago. So I think I saw her last fall, and she could talk, but it was all word salad, and she was very slowed down, and clearly cognitively just really deteriorated, and losing weight a lot, and losing control of some parts of her body, and just really I can't say that we were close, and we had a difficult relationship, and but just the sideline view of that fucking disease, man. Nobody deserves to go through that, and she really suffered, and I feel sad about that. I guess I'm glad she's out of that. I don't know what's better, death or that kind of decline. I don't know. But she's not suffering, and my sibs, my brother in particular, and well, all of them really. But Danny lived 5 minutes from her. Spent a lot of time looking after her and managing her care, and my sister, same, and they're relieved. They're sad, of course, but relieved. They had a different kind of relationship with her, and that's just normal for kids. You grow up in a household, but 4 kids, 4 different experiences of growing up. So mine,
Meaning it was better?
yeah. In some ways, for Danny, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's your younger brother?
yeah. And for Lisa, complicated, and for Peter, complicated, but probably better than for me. And I moved out here, 3,000 miles, so there became a lot more distance. So,
But if we would have asked you when you were 15 if you felt like close to your mom, you would have said not really, right?
I probably would have said yeah, but I wouldn't have really understood the question. I just would have understood the words and
I see.
spit out an answer. But that's.
I mean, because you guys talk, you and your 3 siblings, and do they discount your experience?
No, never. No, they're all very decent. In fact, I have to say that's the best part of the whole thing. Is I showed up a couple days before she passed, and then my sister came, and then my brother Pete came, and on the morning that she passed, we all got there. We were taking turns with shifts, but then it looked like it was the end, so we all showed up, and we just sat around and talked, and it was lovely. They're fun, they're funny, they're realistic. They so that's like the best part of the whole thing is that my sibs are they're people I would be friends with if I wasn't related to them, but they were like this when my dad passed. They're just cooperative and supportive and decent and kind and realistic. Like we actually had a talk about life growing up, and we don't share the same experience. But everybody is respectful of one another and open and welcoming. And after a funeral, we're hanging out, and we're gonna leave the next day. And Lisa and Danny are like, "Well, now you don't have a reason. You don't have an excuse not to come home anymore." So I do. I hope that I see them more. I think about that, and I think it's kind of shitty that I would avoid going there, because going there would mean spending time with my mom and dad. Well, my dad when he was alive, and not just like I'm allowed to like go see my brother or go see my sister, and like we're allowed to have our own thing. It doesn't have to be. But
it gets weird, right?
Yeah.
10 years ago, if you didn't see your mom a significant amount of the time. Plus, you don't go anywhere. So
that's true. I'm travel phobic, so.
It was same. Yeah. So it's not like you're flying all over the place and avoiding Philly.
Yeah,
you're just not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're not even going the town over from Seattle.
Yeah, hardly. Yeah.
Same, we're in the same boat there. It's compounded by the fact that I podcast from home. So at least you leave the house to come here.
That's right.
I don't even leave to work. But I'm curious, and you don't have to answer this question, obviously, but I'm curious because of your own validation and needs do your siblings understand or validate, or what's their explanation for having a different experience?
Oh, two of them make no bones about the abuse. Just pretty straightforward. They were abused, and nobody. Danny less so. I think youngest, and also his temperament is. I don't know. Like he has a capacity to deal with stress, probably better than me, and so he's just. Less affected, and plus they were, he was the fourth of four, so I suspect that their parenting attitudes had shifted some.
Right.
By the time he came around, and
research shows that parents get better with age.
Yeah,
not always, but on average.
Makes sense. Learning curve and all.
Less stress at work because you're more financially secure.
Right.
You've parented before. You probably have more resources. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. And since so much of this shit, the impactful stuff happens, between birth and 3 years, that's a pretty crucial time. So
yeah. So they recognize the abuse that you all experienced or you experienced?
All of us.
And they just, like your older siblings, have just a different approach to that memory. Like, yeah, mom was abusive, but I still love her and she's still my mom, whereas you took a different road.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, they do.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it might just be some of it's geography. Like when you live out here, there's a natural distance that happens because so it could be that as I live out here, I extricate myself from that and then just create more distance around it. And my only contact with them was, phone calls every 2 or 4 weeks. And so...
Well, you're also the only therapist in the group, right? So
yes.
You think that would affect things?
Yeah. I hope it would. I mean, I don't know. Well, wait, what do you mean?
Meaning that you've investigated your feelings and past and acknowledge reality and don't deny and value yourself, get more validation than maybe your siblings would. I don't know.
They're three of us are very familiar with therapy. So I don't know. Maybe. I don't know why.
Do you think you might have absorbed more of it, or like 0 to 5, or that you got more of it?
It's funny, my opinion about that has been that my brother being the oldest, Peter being the oldest, that first one through the wall gets the bloodiest. But what he said a couple weeks ago was, "Now, Bob, you got it worse," and I don't know what he meant. Maybe it's a temperament thing. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like he means you got it worse just like empirically, regardless of your temperament.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't.
He would know. He was there.
He was there.
He was old enough to remember seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, there's a tremendous relief. There's a lot of laughing, some irreverence around the things that happened, and just enjoyment of
Yeah,
one
I was
another's
glad to
company.
hear that you and your siblings were, and always have, gotten along
Yeah.
and were there for each other through this.
Yeah. 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 And so that was, you know, it was funerals. It's not like they're fun, but we saw people from when we were little, like my parents' church.
I don't know. I feel like funerals, memorials are fun in my family
Oh,
anyway.
okay. Then yes, it was a riot.
They're a blast. There's
Yeah.
like a ton of laughter
Yeah. Yeah.
and, you know, seeing old faces you haven't seen in a
Yeah.
long time,
Yeah.
telling old stories. And
Right.
I would assume the deceased would like it that way.
Yeah. I think my mom would have. I think she would have enjoyed us sitting around while she was, passing, enjoying one another's company and, whatever. And so,
Do you believe in an afterlife?
no.
Do your siblings?
Yes.
Did your
I don't know.
Did your mom?
Yes. Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your dad died how many years ago?
12 years.
Yeah. And how do you feel about her death, her final passing?
Sad, not for any loss that I suffered, but sad for that the life that she had didn't afford her a kind of peace that I would have wanted for her. My mom was wrecked. My dad, they're both wrecked. They're pretty amazing for what they came out of, and having had no support, and what I think was probably a very troubled marriage.
They had a rough childhood.
Both of them, yeah. Abuse on my dad's side. I'm not sure about my mother, but some really angry, hostile shit going on in her growing up house with her parents, and then they lived with her dad's parents, because my family owned a box making business. They made boxes, like hat boxes and that sort of thing. And when the technology switched and people started doing the boxes that fold, like you go to the clothing store and they put it in a box, but the box is just, they have to fold it up and then put it in, and it's not a rigid box. They didn't adapt, and the business failed, and they ended up living with my grandpa's parents, which I think was a really bad fit for my grandma, who I never met. But I think that there was a lot of anger and hostility and money stress, and probably...
This is your mom's family?
Yeah, probably alcoholism. And my mom is the youngest of four, and she's actually the last one to pass. I don't have a lot of good feelings about my one aunt. My other aunt I don't really know very well, and my uncle, who I know even less, he passed maybe 20 years ago, maybe a little more. I don't really know him at all. They were fractured. Like, there were many years my mom didn't, years without speaking to them because of feuds and fractures, and they didn't know how to resolve things. They're Irish Catholic. They know how to hold a grudge. So I didn't grow up with my aunts and uncles around. My dad's an only child, and I didn't know my cousins. I still don't know my cousins. I saw four of them, at five of them? Anyways, at my mom's funeral, but I hadn't seen three of them in probably since when my father passed. I probably saw him then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, a lot of fracture, and for what they came out of, they did remarkably well. They pulled themselves up and created material and financial stability for themselves, and they stayed together 50 years. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but
Your parents.
Yeah, they stayed, and they yeah. Anyways, but they both had narcissism, and they didn't know how to work with one another very well, and I think they hurt each other a lot.
Hurt you a lot.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So,
I just always think about the story you told on the podcast about, pretty sure
Yeah.
on the podcast,
Yeah.
about you had come home from school, like in late grade school or something,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
your mom made you a sandwich or something,
Yep. Egg sandwich.
and you were telling your mom about a girl from school.
It was her birthday, and my mother wanted to know her name, and I thought if I tell the name, she's going to know I think the girl's cute, and so I just kept my mouth shut.
And then your mom started laying into you and
She
asking you weird questions like, how come you won't tell me her
Yeah.
name?
Yeah.
And you're just frozen, obviously afraid.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, just being shy or something.
Very.
And she takes it personally.
Yeah.
And she
Angry.
starts to lay into you. And you're just sitting there stunned and silent with a big bite of egg sandwich in your mouth.
Yeah.
And the thing that I told you when you were telling me that your mom
Yeah.
died is you can finally swallow that
Swallow the
sandwich.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how it feels to me.
It makes sense.
How so?
Well, there is relief with her passing. There's a sense of responsibility lifted. So I can go east now, and I mean I always could, but now I feel like it's easier to go east and see my peeps and spend time with them without the specter of that shit hanging over, and without being enraged with it having no place to go, because I'm not. I can't. I tried when I was in my 20s to make something different between us, and that went nowhere. Which, in retrospect, is not a shock at all. In part because of me, but and also part because of their inability to transcend, their own pain, and to see me as an individual that's not them or not a reflection of them, and just my own whatever. And they couldn't do it, and I wasn't necessarily artful in my attempt, but it was an attempt, and not a very welcome one. So, that kind of scar tissue, whatever, I have to, that's gone. It's gone. So if I want to go see my brother or my sister, or my other brother, I can do that now freely and easily, and enjoy their company, because I love them. They're really nice people. They're really decent folks, and their partners, very decent people. So, and kids. There's 6 kids now. Kids. The youngest is a senior in high school. But lovely young people, really nice folks. Yeah. So I can do that now, and more easily and freely. So.
Yeah. Is there any sort of liberation inside your soul, inside your self-esteem or your sense of agency or something? Healing something? I don't know.
It's a really interesting question. Yeah, although I don't understand it yet, there is. So the last 3 weeks, what's been on my mind is assertiveness and autonomy quite a bit, and both a desire for it. I want to be more assertive and autonomous, and also some ignorance about when passivity shows up in its many forms and disguises, and a fear of being more assertive and autonomous. So, like, we went and saw some friends last night for dinner in Edmonds. I left Seattle, and one of our friends' birthday, and so we had some cards there at home to pick from, and I actually chose one. I said I want to do this card, and Colleen was like, "Yeah, great, that card's fine." But it's the kind of thing where I would just automatically defer to her, or really anybody else's choice, without expressing any desire of my own. And if she had said, "No, I don't want to do that card, I'll do this other card," or whatever, I wasn't going to fight. It's not something, but to actually exercise a preference and speak it is hopefully a growing skill, though my therapist would probably be like, "Dude, I've been trying to get you to do this for 8 years," which is true. It's true. Most every session, this is a focus. So, but I'm wondering if, I I said to him, "Oh, you're licking your chops on this one because assertiveness and autonomy came up in every session right after my mother passed." And I'm like, "Well, here's what I want." And he's like, "Huh." And I said, "Oh, you're licking your chops because she just died, and I'm talking about this." And he just kind of laughed, I think, and it was a little bit funny. So, here's what I'm wondering: if with her passing, somehow there's just a part of me that's just freeing up to take more risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe just like the specter of being judged or rejected, even though, like I haven't really talked to her in 3 or 4 years. And
Yeah. But, we can't ever dislodge ourselves from underneath one's thumb, right?
yes.
Even if they're dead sometimes, but sometimes with that,
Yeah.
it feels less so. I also wonder if
Is that true for you? Like, have you had that experience with somebody passes?
No.
Well, I don't think that's going to be likely true for you because you're very good at exercising your agency.
Well, I've never been underneath someone's thumb.
That helps.
Yeah. I think that's the key. Yeah. But maybe there's nuances of some sort.
Maybe.
Another, I think, possibility is that you're the top of the family tree, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Your parents' generation is gone, and now you're that top generation who is still alive. You know? And there's something transitional about that.
Yeah.
But I also wonder if the intensity or the requirements of the emotional experience of grieving together with your siblings, the concentrated nature of it, liberated you independent of your mom passing. It's being in your feelings, in you, allowed to be you, might have facilitated some generalization of that feeling outside of that.
Yeah, could be. I hope it continues because as scary as it is to express preference, I want to.
Yeah.
Even saying that is scary.
Yeah. And I've seen the sine wave of this with you, maybe overall in an upward direction. But I remember when you went to the writing retreat and you got back, and there was a good 6 to 9 months of you being very much in your agency. Yeah. Not anything close to being too much in your agency, just like the real Bob, really, is the way that I see it. Mm. And then the slow kind of descent again, and then there was another uptick. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't as long or as big, but maybe this also is. So there's something about that kind of experience, the intense emotional group experience that kind of pushes you past the typical defenses and modes that you get into or something.
Yeah, that's nicely put.
Well, I personally have a lot of rage at your mom, and that hasn't changed with her passing. And I also am hearing, I think, that she might have improved on the model, so to speak, regarding her childhood. But I don't know. Even if you're suffering, it's not hard to love and make your child feel safe most of the time. And so this doesn't change that.
Yeah. It's funny, I remark to my clients frequently, because many of my clients come out of trauma and abuse, and many of them are parents, and almost to a person, they all impress me because they're capable of raising their children in wisdom and care and all the good stuff, even though they don't have a personal model of how to do that. It's really lovely and remarkable.
Yeah. if you've been through tremendous trauma growing up, you're probably going to make some mistakes.
Sure.
But the parents that I think that you're referring to, typically in my experience, they'll come around and apologize, which, did your mom ever apologize?
No, she can't do that. Neither one of them could do it.
Yeah.
No, when I was 22, I was first sort of, I suppose really the first time I was in psychotherapy and was talking about this and sort of confronting inside myself, like, that was abusive, that whole first 19 years. And so wrote a letter to my dad about some of his behavior, and he wrote back a very strange, I probably told you this, he wrote back something very strange. First off, he took the letter I wrote and cut it into strips and taped it to paper and then wrote comments beneath each strip of, paragraph or whatever, comments about, I still have that letter, I should dig it out and look at it, his comments about what I had written. And he didn't deny any of it. It wasn't like he was saying, no, that never happened. But what he did say was, I don't know what you want me to do with this information, which is sort of interesting. If you hit somebody with your car and you knock them down and they're on the ground and they're writhing in pain, you're getting a lot of information, but it isn't much question about what to do. It's just like, fucking call 911 and get them to the side and say you're sorry.
Right.
Like, it's pretty fucking easy.
Yeah.
Right? So then I didn't understand. I mean, I don't even know if I understand it now, but I didn't understand how simple that is. But the best he could do was just to say, I acknowledge that this is true, and I don't know what you want me to do with it. To which I want to say, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Fucking say you're sorry.
Yeah.
Like, or say you're not if you're not, but whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, guy had 4 kids and he was 29 years old with no equipment, no psychological wherewithal. And, that was the day when, the kids leave the house and they run around all day. It's not like they're, we're sort of out of sight, out of mind. And, so, I feel bad for him because he's Catholic and he would bit off more than he could chew because he's a rule follower, right? So they say you're not allowed to use birth control, right? That's a fucking blew his head when my mother insisted. But he relented. Like when she said, nope, we're going on the pill. He breathed and accepted influence, which I'm not sure really means that he came to a conclusion on his own. So much as just followed her lead because, it's hard for him to be in his autonomy and agency. So I don't really know. I can't ask him now. And anyways, he couldn't see beyond his own pain.
Right.
And he was in a lot of it. And yeah, I mean, do you ever think about this? Like, I think how good it is to be alive now with the degree of psychological sophistication there is now. And so when you find a therapist, you find somebody that has skills that are 50 years more advanced than they were in the 70s. Now, I don't know if that's true, but when I think about that, I think my folks who had access to therapy, though I couldn't say anything about the quality of the therapist, I don't know any of them, I sort of think, did they have available to them something optimal? And I don't know the answer to that, though object relations has been around a long time and people have been good at it for a long time.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's impossible to know.
Yeah.
My sense, given that when we were in grad school in the 90s and we were exposed to those therapists that would be practicing in the 70s, is that there's a similar bell curve of competence or general wisdom or something.
Yeah.
But it just looked different. It was across more psychoanalytic circles. You could have a psychoanalytic-oriented therapist that was pretty bad and also one that was pretty good. I mean, Irvin Yalom was practicing in the 70s.
That's right.
And he is arguably at least psychodynamically oriented,
Yeah.
But in today's world, there's a similar bell curve, but the theories are different in terms of how they identify. You can be a CBT therapist and be extremely wise and caring and healing.
Yeah.
And you can be a psychoanalytic therapist and be a dunce,
Yeah.
you know. So it's just, you know, my sense of things.
Yeah.
But the thing that they had were priests, and some of them are some of the best listeners of all time. And I'm sure that today and back then especially, because those were the people that people went to.
Yeah. That's true.
That they would have some way of helping your parents reorient towards the light and away from abuse and toward healing. That was available to them.
My mom, faith very important to her, and mostly on her own. And after I was born, she goes to the priest and says, I don't want to have any more kids. And the priest says to her, motherfucker, he's like, well, it's your duty to have sex with your husband when he wants it. Complete bunk. And birth control's a sin. More bunk. So she actually quit the formal church, and they were still they were in a hippie underground church, right? Like the person that officiated her wedding was ordained a priest in their hippie church, a woman. That was back in the mid-late 70s. So I hadn't seen that lady in 35 or 40 years. I saw her the other day. Anyways.
Your parents got married in the late 70s?
No, my parents got married in 1961 or 2.
Yeah.
But they dropped out of the formal Catholic church. You know, like Catholics, the way it's supposed to be is wherever you live, that's where you go to church. So you're in a parish.
Yeah.
Or do they call them that? I don't. They might call them that. But yeah, I think they do. And so that's like a county, like a church county, and you go to the church. But that doesn't mean that you're just going to the local dude. It has nothing to do with quality control or careful shopping. It's just this is where you go. And so she quit, and after that they I don't know how they got involved in this sort of underground Catholic hippie church where we met at an American. This is back when they made us go to church. We met in the American Legion Hall, like a couple towns over, or we were in the basement of this elementary school.
Yeah, same. So I think it was kind of a movement at the time.
Yeah, makes sense.
We were non-denominational because there's fewer Catholics out here in Seattle, but it was the same. We met in some hall that they rented on Sunday morning, and I would call it a hippie church.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't hippie like nudity and drugs and stuff, but it was baby boomers, young, in their 20s, breaking away from their parents' old stuffy religion, more humanistic.
Yeah.
So was this new hippie church more likely available to help your parents with their emotions?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not the original.
Not the original. And ultimately, that church was the source of a great deal of marital stress, which I'll say for another time. Be fun to talk about. But so I don't know if it was a good fit, but at some point they stopped making us go, which was fucking awesome. Because A, they leave the house on Sunday morning, and so they're not around. Awesome. And B, the Three Stooges were on Sunday mornings, and so we used to just watch the Three fucking Stooges for fucking hours. It was great.
So did you ever go back to church?
Not in any kind of...
Really? How old were you when that happened?
I think I was 9 or 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
My family went to church every Sunday my whole life.
Growing up?
Yeah.
Like through high school?
Yeah.
And you went with them every Sunday?
Yeah.
When did you stop? You stopped doing that at some point?
When I went to college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was that like? Was that like a good thing or a neutral thing or?
Multifaceted. I was pretty into church growing up, and I was really the youth group was actually a big part of my life. I was invited to go to youth group, but resisted a lot. But they actually, what I would call to be a little bit of a coercive tactic, or from my memory, I think they literally just showed up at my house with my parents' permission
Ew.
and said, come out with us, just socialize,
Oh.
come to Dairy Queen with us or something.
Yeah.
And, or my mom agreed that I would go. I just remember going, I don't want to. Okay, fine. And I ended up really loving this group. Yeah.
Great.
And I looked up, I was one of the younger kids in the youth group, and there were these other teens that were like 4 years older, and I really looked up to them. They were super cool. They were what I guess today we would call like hipsters or goth or something. But in the 80s, they listened to a lot of European music, and a lot of my music taste actually comes from them. A lot of the music that they listened to, I had never heard before and became exposed to, and I don't know. I still think about that older kind of crowd.
That's cool.
And their sense of humor and stuff. And we would sit around in a circle and sing songs, and we would talk about our feelings, and there would be God and Jesus and stuff and scripture, but that was pretty minor. And the youth pastors seemed old, but I think they were like 20 or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Uh-huh. And we would do these missions, so to speak, not like the Mormons, but we would do these charitable trips where we would help the disadvantaged. We went to Mexico one time and
Wow.
built these kind of, what do you call it? The organization that...
Habitat for Humanity?
Yeah. Habitat for Humanity. Sort of like, it might have even been that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there were these very simple but sturdy structures that replaced these very ramshackle houses that these very poor people lived in Mexico. And it was very formative, to be 12 years old and to see these people and to see them being happy. That was a thing. Like, these families were happy. They had nothing, just rags on their backs and a plastic sheet that protected them from the sun at night, or, not sun at night, but, some shelter. And the kids are running around having a good time. Now, things weren't great in their life. They were without any services and education or power or protections, but anyway, it was a very formative time, and that lasted through the end of high school. I mean, I was a little less involved later on, but I was still involved. But going to college, it was such an overwhelming experience being in the frat, and imagine living on a block on a street where you have literally. Estimate like 1,000 kids between the age of 18 and 21, and everyone's horny and drunk and and also kind of smart because UW attracts a smarter crowd.
They're gonna get
and ready to party and ready to have experiences and ready to meet people and ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready to be creative, ready to have experiences, ready to march. We would march politically, and there was just a lot of things, and I was in such a whirlwind that everything got pushed to the side.
Oh, sure.
It was kind of a whirlwind, but anyway, there's an email that kind of pertains that I thought we should read.
Yeah.
But let's take a break. What do you say?
Right on.
All right, we're back from the break. I mean, most of all, Bob, I just want to say, I'm sorry for what your parents did to you. I'm sure it's way even more complicated than you could possibly describe, right? All the ins and outs. And I guess one of the things that I'm observing, given your reaction talking to you today, given my experience with grieving, is that you grieved her decades ago, in a way, And as especially she entered the more advanced stages of Alzheimer's, you were pretty realistic about, well, she's kind of gone already. And whatever sort of bits of attachment and sadness you would have had, either you gave up a long time ago and felt, or it was sort of piecemealed over time. But you seem generally at peace, and you did when we were talking when you were in Philly.
Yeah.
And whereas I think for other people, when they go through what I would call a complicated relationship loss, there's more unresolved issues, more hopes that are finally dashed, right? Like you don't seem to have that. You don't seem to be like, oh, I held out hope that she would have. You've processed that. You grieved that. You distanced yourself. You grieved the loss of not only a childhood that you deserved, but also the mom that you wished you had or something, a long, long time ago. Through all the therapy and the boundary, there's a lot of moments that you had to bump up against it. Going home when you were still in the kind of the limbo in your 20s and 30s of trying to make it work. And, you talked about trying to reorient your relationship with your mom in your 20s and the pain and anger and the venting and the processing and the shame and the building yourself back up again. That all happened way long ago. And so as she was fading away, the last bits of your grief were expressed, which it wasn't much really. And then when she finally passed, it wasn't a huge blow.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't really feel bad about that. I think, we have a cookie cutter, version of what it's supposed to look like when somebody dies. But our responses are, the full range of responses is what's normal. So,
yeah, it goes without saying, but I guess I'll say it, that there's a contingency of our society, pretty big one, that says that universally it's disrespectful to speak ill of the dead, particularly of your mom, or to turn away from your mom. Moms give so much, this kind of thing. And it's just like either you've never been through what these people have been through, or you have some sort of religious political agenda that I just have no time for.
Yeah.
A child's love is earned, and most parents earn it.
Yeah.
And if you don't fucking earn it, then you don't fucking deserve it.
Yeah.
Here's an email. Long-term annual patron from New Jersey.
Jersey.
Interesting. She says, "Hi, Dr. Kirk and Bob. I had an upbringing similar to Bob's, and I now have complex PTSD and disorganized attachment. By the way, I just finished my book and sent it to you, Bob, a couple days ago to review. And, let's talk about that for a second.
Congratulations. It's a fantastic accomplishment.
Yeah.
How many years? 10, 11?
11 years.
Woof.
Maybe longer, I don't know.
Wow.
Well, it's mainly a product of just how shitty of a writer I am and how long it took me to develop the ability to write. It's kind of weird because I've said I'm never writing another fucking book because it takes too long, and I have other things I want to do. I would like to write again, but there's too many other things I want to do. Yeah. Too many deep dives, really, is the kind of thing.
Well, it's a testament to perseverance.
And completionism, you know, like well, I always complete what I set out to do.
Okay.
Which is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, right. Like
but also I'm passionate about the topic, and I'm also passionate about the whole thing, because it's not just about the narrow topic of grief the way people usually talk about it. When I get into the book, it basically is about life and death and healing and love and connection and attachments and shame and emotion and society and culture and all the things, history, genealogy, the very meaning of life really is kind of expressed through the whole thing. And the book is this kind of weird combo, I think, of academic and personal and therapeutic, and it's kind of like the podcast.
Yeah, I was
in
just
a way.
going to say, it's your wheelhouse.
Yeah. So, yeah, it feels good to be done. If no one buys it, I'll 95% of my enjoyment will have been met already because I don't know. I cried multiple times while writing, and sometimes I would even mention it.
Yeah.
I would say, well, that one made me cry or something.
Right.
So I don't know, but I really appreciate your looking it over because you helped me with my last book and you spent a lot of time and effort and you give good advice.
It's a good book. If you're looking for a book about supervision, it is a very good book.
Thanks. Yeah. And my current thought is that the feedback that I get from you and a couple other editors,
Yeah.
Colin Miller, actually, for those who know, he is on the podcast occasionally. Call in with Colin, we call it. He is an editor as well, and so he's going to look it over. And then there's another colleague named Christine who she's going to look it over as well. She's a writer and a clinician, so she knows about these, and she's written about grief herself, so she is a good resource in that way. But it's also pretty personal. I mean, I get a lot into my own personal experiences, and there have been some interesting stories because as I talk about individual people in my past, I feel compelled to reach out to those people, including you, by the way, for permission to talk about it. I'd be like, is it okay that I'm telling this story about you, by the way? And they will always say yes. And then I ask, do you have any clarifications? And there's been some huge revelations from this.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And some reconnections, you know? So that's been interesting to experience, but also to document, say like, by the way, I reached out for permission and let me give you an update on that kind of, anyway.
Right on.
But why was I talking about that?
Because you finished the damn thing just the other day.
Yeah.
And it's on your mind and it's fantastic.
Oh.
And I think the whoever wrote in mentioned something about.
Oh. So thank you. I've been, as people have heard me talk ad nauseum about, is I've been trying to get better work-life balance back the past few years. And about a year and a half ago, I finally got to a point where I could sort of breathe. And with that breathing, I decided to allocate basically all that free time to finishing the book. So for the past couple years, I've been spending entire days, or weeks at a time, because it requires that kind of time.
It does, yeah.
Especially when you have citations and references and research and da-da-da.
Yeah.
And so I have been doing that. But now that that's done, now I'm really free.
Woof.
Yeah. So I want to do deep dives, and two of the top deep dives I want to do is one, complex PTSD, and the other one, limerence, and three would be psychopathy, antisocial. So that's why I could talk about. So, hi, Dr. Kirk and Bob. I had an upbringing similar to Bob's, and I now have complex PTSD and disorganized attachment. I decided to go no contact with both of my parents, and even though it is the right decision for me, quite honestly, it sucks. My dad is recently sick and recently almost died, and I upheld my no-contact decision with my parents. But I am really warm and empathetic and compassionate, and sometimes I feel like my no-contact decision is the wrong one. It feels like I am going against how much I value empathy in relationships. All I want to do is to be with my family, but as soon as my dad's health scare happened, even without speaking to my parents directly, I had a massive uptick in PTSD symptoms. I know for my well-being, I can't talk to my parents, at least right now. What advice do you have to get myself through this? It has caused me so much guilt and grief. thank you so much, and I appreciate you both very much. Also, as a fellow Penn State grad,
right on.
Bob is right. Nittany Lions over Huskies. Sorry, Dr. Kirk. End of email. Well, Jesus Christ.
They're coming. Penn State's coming in fall of 2026, and we are going to the game.
And I don't. Well, we'll see how UW does this year. I'm not confident, but you never know.
We're going to the game, and you're going to wear purple, and I'm going to wear blue, and we're going to have some beer and a good time.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Well, I have a whole big frat group of guys that go all the time.
Great. They're going to pummel me.
And so we can get tickets with them.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Our accountant.
Yeah. Our accountant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that,
Daryl. And we can do the pre-funk and the post-funk at the house. Anyway, so what advice do you have getting... Yeah. So it kind of sounds like she is at a point where you might have been like 20 years ago or something. So what advice do you have?
Well, this is tricky. I mean, I don't think that I never went no contact with my folks. And when they each did get sick, I was around to some extent, not very much, sort of minimally. So that said, I think it sort of depends on what you want. Like when you're asking for advice, what do you want? Do you want like relief from pain that you're having when you don't have contact with them, or do you want to have your PTSD symptoms abate enough so that you can have contact with them? And by the way, having contact with them has nothing to do with having empathy. This is what struck me when I read this, was how they seem to be juxtaposed as I'm an empathic person, but I'm shutting the door on my parents. So what a dick I am. That's how I read it. And I don't buy that at all. What I actually think is happening is there's a part of you that is really afraid of your stance and afraid of just standing in your own space and doing what you need. And the way it rebels is it says, you're an asshole who doesn't have empathy for your parents, even when they're sick as shit. What's wrong with you? I think it's just an artifact of defense, and it's no big deal. And I could be wrong, but if I'm not wrong, then it's no big deal. It's just, lately I've been thinking about this shit. It's like a shark's tooth. Shark's teeth are really interesting in that they point inward. So if you get bit by a shark and you pull your arm out, what happens is the teeth will dig in, and your arm doesn't want to get dinged up some more. So what do? You have to go into the shark's mouth in order to not have teeth sticking in you. And of course, that's death, right? So what I think is that humans do something, or maybe not human, we do something similar in that when we are going against long-held, perhaps erroneous beliefs about what we're supposed to be, when we buck the trend, then our brain is going to throw up storms and threats and anything it can think of to get us to toe the line, because it's, to your brain, it's just about survival. It's, what do I got to do to survive this? And so for me, having, quote, empathy is a survival skill, but it isn't, in my case, really empathy. It's just a way to survive this fucking nonsense and chaos and danger. And in my case, it's closet narcissism. So, what are you going to do, right? But I don't think that you attacking yourself simply because you notice this thing come up. No, sorry, I'm not saying it right. What I mean to say is, I think you should consider, is this really empathy? Because it might not be. God, did that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
total sense.
Right on.
Right. I mean, you could say empathy deserves to go a lot of different directions, including yourself.
Yeah, you could say that.
But I think another way of saying what you're saying is that it might not be empathy or compassion as much as it's shame.
Yeah, thank you. That's a nice, very succinct way to say it.
There's a feeling of within of like you're supposed to care or express care.
Right.
And we can mistake that feeling for compassion.
Yep.
When in possibility it's just shame.
It's just shame.
And internalized depression, internalized notions of you must be nice to your parents no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
So be kind to yourself at the least. Whether you do anything with your folks, maybe it's another matter, but there is no benefit to giving yourself a hard time about whatever your stance happens to be.
Yeah. And, one can have compassion without exposing oneself.
One can indeed.
You can, in your mind, in your heart, and maybe even express it in some way, maybe through a card or something if you felt that was safe enough.
Yeah.
Or compassion from afar or something, but it doesn't mean that you have to be right by their side, exposing yourself to being traumatized again. The other thing that I'll say is that any child who, adult child who draws a boundary with a parent, I've never met an adult child that drew a boundary with a parent that didn't deserve to draw a boundary with their parent. People who, in fact, it's almost always the opposite. I'm always thinking that person deserves to draw a boundary with their parent, and they're not.
Yeah.
People who draw boundaries with parents have tried everything under the sun before they drew a boundary with their parent. So now I'm sure there are some isolated cases, like if a child was traumatized by the other parent and had a general personality disorder that caused them to target the other parent, I could see that something. But generally speaking, if someone doesn't have a significant personality disorder, but even if they do, honestly, and they've drawn a boundary with the parent, 99% of my assumption is that decision was made after they gave it too much time and effort to not draw a boundary. Yeah. So my guess is, long-term annual patron from New Jersey, what I hear is you deserve to draw a boundary years before you actually did. So I'm guessing there's no basis for guilt or shame at all. Compassion and love from one's children is earned. It's not a right. Parents aren't entitled to love from us. They earn it. I love my parents because they earned it 10 times over. I don't just give it to them because I'm a good person. I give it to them because I want to. Yeah. It just happens. I don't have to force it. That's what good enough parents get from their adult children, is not love out of obligation or duty, but love because it just feels right. It just comes out of me. It's natural. So if it's not coming out of you naturally, then don't force yourself or shame yourself into it. They don't deserve it. And fuck them, honestly. Really, just fuck them. Fine, they had a bad childhood. Fuck them. I don't give a fuck. There are plenty of people who have had bad childhoods who, with mistakes, make up for it somehow. Validate it. Apologize. Something. And if parents don't do that, then fuck them. Fuck them. So fucking angry at these people. I mean, how hard is it to love your child and apologize?
Man, I don't know. I apologize all the time. I don't have kids, but I apologize to Colleen because I'm sometimes a nightmare. But it's not her fault. And so I constantly make not quite the same mistake over and over again, but I make the mistake frequently, and I'm very fast and good at saying I'm sorry. And not just like, I'm sorry, so you have to suck it up now because I said I'm sorry, but like actually care about whatever might be helpful for her to feel whole again. So it's not enough just to say you're sorry. It's like, what do you need? What can I do? How can I make this right with you? Or how can I help you heal from or resolve, the bullshit thing I just did or said or whatever it is, whatever. It's not hard.
No.
It's fucking easy. And actually, I learned this one from you. It feels good to do it.
Mm-hmm. So good. It feels good to crest the hill and plan to do it.
Yeah.
Just the thought of, oh, yeah, I should probably apologize.
Yeah.
And right then I feel better. I feel, I feel so much better now.
Yeah.
Just the thought, and then, then apologize, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, everyone wins.
Yeah. Everybody wins.
Yeah. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because
You deserve it.